Okay, so this is the homework help video for Unit 5, Worksheet 8, and I'm going to flip to the back side here. And we're going to take a look at question number 21. So for here, we want to find the domain for each of the following functions analytically. So that means I want to factor. So I'm going to start with factoring. So I know that if I have a square root, the only type of numbers I can square root are they have to be either positive.
Anthony Barajas, please report to the office. Anthony Barajas, please report to the office.
So it either has to be positive or 0, right? Those are the only types of square root numbers that I have. So that means I want whatever is underneath here greater than or equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out that x squared. Keeping in mind it has to be greater than or equal to 0. And then factor one more time. And then solve each one. So I know that x squared can equal 0, so x can equal 0. And then x minus 5 equal to 0, so that would be 5. And then finally x plus 4 equal to 0, so that would be negative 4. And then I'm going to do a sign analysis, right? So I'm going to do a sign analysis. So we've done these a couple chapters ago. So in order, so this is for g of x. So negative 4 is my smallest value. And then I have a 0, and then I have a 5. So what I'm doing here, remember, is I'm just picking a number in between each interval and substituting it in and seeing if I get a positive or a negative number. So I'm going to start with negative 5, so I'm going to use some scratch paper here. So I don't need to substitute it into x squared because any number I put into here, it's always going to be positive. So I know x squared will always be positive, right? And then now if I put in negative 5 into here, so I'm going to have negative 5 minus 5, so that's negative 10, so negative. And then now I'm going to put negative 5 into here, so negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1, so negative. So when I multiply a positive times a negative, I'm going to get a positive number. So I know this is positive. So now I'm going to pick a number between 0 and negative 4, so let's say I pick negative 1. So I'm going right back into here again. So negative 1 squared is positive, so it's going to be positive. Cross that off. And then if I plug negative 1 into here, so negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6, so negative. And then plug negative 1 into here, so negative 1 plus 4 is a positive number. So now when I multiply a positive times a negative times a positive, I would get a negative number, so that's going to be negative. Alright, and then I'm going to pick another number between 0 and 5. So let's say I pick 1. So again, 1 squared is positive. So here I'm going to put 1 into here. You cannot see what I'm doing, can you? Let's scoot that over. Okay, so what did I pick? 1, yeah. So 1 squared is 1, so that's positive. And then I'm going to do 1 minus 5 is negative 4, so negative. And then 1 plus 4 is 5, so that would be positive. So when I multiply a positive times a positive, that would be a negative. And then finally one more, so I'm going to plug in 6, so I'm going to pick a number bigger than 5, so say 6. So again, 6 squared is positive. And then plug 6 into here, so 6 minus 5 is 1, so positive. And then one more, 6 plus 4 is 10, so positive. And when I multiply 3 positives together, I will get a positive. So my domain is going to be wherever sections are positive. So the domain here would be from negative infinity until I got to negative 4, including negative 4. And then again, starting at 5, including 5, until we get to positive infinity. So again, I'm including these because we can take the square root of a 0, and that would be at negative 4 and 5. Okay. And then what about 0? Could I also use 0 as well? And I could, right? Because do I know the square root of 0? Yes. So then I have one more, and I'm just going to do and 0. Okay? All right, and then let's take a look at one more here in the domain. Let's look at 27. So this one, I have two things I have to kind of be careful with, right? So I know that 7 minus x has to be greater than or equal to 0. But I also know that x squared minus 4 cannot equal 0, right? So my radical needs to be above 0 or equal to 0, but my denominator cannot be 0. So I'm going to solve this first. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And then divide by -1. So I know that x has to be less than or equal to 7, but I want to see, is there any place where it might be 0 over here? So I'm going to go ahead and factor. And so x cannot equal -2 or 2. And so that means that x is less than or equal to 7, but I can't use 2 or -2 either, right? So I'm going to just do a number line here so we can see that better. So I'm using all of these numbers here, right? So anything below 7, but I can't use 2 and I can't use -2. And so when I set up my interval for my domain, I need to have these 3 sections because I can't include those numbers. So that means for the first interval is I'm going from -infinity to -2, but not equal to -2. And then everything in between -2 and 2, but not equal, so parentheses. And then everything from 2 to 7. So not equal to 2, but 7 is okay because it can be 0 in the square root. Okay, and then let's take a look at number 29, so the last one here, so the difference quotient. So for the difference quotient, I'm basically just substituting, right? So I know that this is f of x here, and so that's going to replace here. So that's going to go into there. Okay, and then I need to come up with this. So I always want to set my fraction first so that I can understand that I am subtracting 2 things over h. The second thing I'm subtracting is the original, right? And I want to make sure it's grouped. So that's just f of x. But the first thing in front of here is going to be the same equation that I have, but everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with x plus h. So I'm going to use brackets here so I can see that. So I'm going to have, instead of 3x, I'm going to have 3 and then x plus h. And then instead of just x squared, I'm going to have minus x plus h and then squared. Okay. All right, and then again, I'm going to use some scratch paper here. Actually, I'll work to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute in the 3. And then I'm going to write that out twice. Keep in mind I need to distribute in that negative. So I bracketed it off again, so I remember to distribute in the negative, and then distribute in that negative. Let me zoom in so we can see everything, and then I'll zoom in tight when I get this first step done. Okay, so all I've done is distribute in the 3, and then I wrote this out twice, and I bracketed it off so I remember to distribute in that negative. And then I distributed the negative into here. And then this is all over h. So I can see that this is going to cancel, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And then I'm going to distribute this in combined like terms. So I have a 3h here. And then I'm going to distribute. And then I have my plus 3x squared. Oh wait, I just realized I'm like, something's not looking right. That's why the big giant pause. This should just be positive x squared because a negative times a negative, so that should just be x squared. Like something doesn't look right. Okay, so let me get that x squared going on there. There we go, that's better. All right, and then now I'm going to go ahead and distribute in this negative to everything here, and at the same time I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So I have the 3h, and then distribute in the negative. So this will be 1xh plus 2xh, so that's 1 plus 1, so that's 2 of them, and then that negative, so negative. And then distribute in the negative to the h squared, and then I have my positive x squared. Okay. So again, I just made all of these terms negative and I combined to the middle. And then my x squareds cancel. And then I have an h common to all of those, so I'm going to pull out that h, so that'll leave me with a 3, and then a 2x, and then an h. And then that gives me my difference quotient there. Okay, and that's it for the homework help video.